Welcome back to another episode of Duel Alliance with myself, Alicia Solomon, and Megan Hines, where we discuss the challenge. We are back to discuss the reunion, part one of season 39, Battle for a New Champion. I mean, this reunion, I don't know why it's two parts, to be honest. They could have really just wrapped this up. Even Maria Menounos was screaming. Shout out to Maria for returning, by the way, after her health issues that she's had in previous years. But nonetheless, we got the challengers back, and not the whole cast. People had other obligations and couldn't make it. But there was also champs, and however, I love some of them. Some of them made the reunion, to be honest. I would say Laurel, as Horacio called her. Laurel made the reunion. But for me, to be honest, everybody should have not. What do I always say? Everybody can't go. As Benny the Butcher has plainly put it for me. Everybody can't go.
Yeah.
Everybody should not have been there. And I mean, they were playing trivia games in the middle of this reunion. They were doing chaos pulls. Please
It was a
wrap it
lot.
up. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I feel like the only person that probably should have been there that was low key as part of a storyline was Anissa, and she's not even the champ. Let
I
her
mean, that
explain
should tell you
herself.
something. That should tell you something, to be honest.
Yeah. But before we get into what Maria called the closure phase of the season, these fashions were not, some of them were not giving, some of them were. We had a 20 moment that I kind of liked, but I feel like as a grown person, you shouldn't do that. But I get the vision. Some of these outfits, let's discuss.
I'm glad you see vision and you see ahead because I didn't see any of it. I don't really have a best dress. If I would have to put a name on it, it would probably be Nerese. She just looked normal, as plainly I could put it. Like she didn't look too out of place. And one thing I will say about reunion looks, because we've gone through a lot of years of not just on this show, but multiple reality TV shows where the reunion looks have changed dramatically. So I feel like, we can go all the way back to Flavor of Love season, reunions and see how they looked from season one of Atlanta Housewives to their season two, and how that kind of grew in terms of the looks and the patterns and the designs and all these other things that they've done. And then I feel like the Housewives standards of reunion looks kind of filled over into Love and Hip Hop and then also onto this show, The Challenge. So a lot of times we get looks that are very extravagant, very much I have a quinceañera to go to after this. Very much I don't know what I'm doing here, but I just rolled out of bed and came because I had a call time. Like it's a lot of differentiating outfits and looks, and sometimes it's just personalities coming out, but a lot of the times it's bullshit, I will say. And that's what I saw. Like I feel like I said, the best was Nerese just because she looked the most normal. Her dress wasn't too overdone. Her makeup was, it was great. It wasn't too, again, extravagant. A little something on the eye. That's all I need. A little razzle dazzle. Make it look like you rolled out of bed. Unlike James, I feel like we just woke James out of a nap and he really just got on the stage and came on. His eyes were so depleted, looked like he got no sleep. I was so confused at James, but again, I mean, that's James in a nutshell this season, to be honest. But some of the looks, I don't have words to really put to them.
Yeah. The guys didn't give anything aside from Corey in that daggone suit and Emmanuel looking like a cross between Michael Jackson and a Nutcracker.
Emmanuel definitely was giving Liberace. If you're of a certain age, you would know exactly who that is. Like he gave magician. And yeah, I'm not really sure what it was or how much it was in Romanian money because clearly he's a millionaire, but he needs to return it expeditiously because that was not a look.
You know. Of the girls, I didn't when I saw Mariah's dress, I was like, this looks like a mermaid dress. She was really like a mermaid because her hair is wavy, and the two part of it, I'm like, okay, I get it. I kind of like it, but I'm like, I kind of don't because look, she could have barely moved.
Yeah, Mariah gave very much Miami Fashion Nova. It's not cute. I love Mariah now. Like her body is great. Like everyone was raving about her body when she got up in her little segment that she was in, but Mariah Mariah doesn't know how to dress to begin with. Like we've seen her in shorts and cowboy boots all season with bralettes. Let's be real. I'm not taking fashion advice from Mariah or looking for fashion inspiration from Mariah, but I will say the body is fab though. The body is fab. Tens across the board for the body, but that outfit is chopped, mamas. It's chopped.
Yeah, and then obviously, the British twins, Big T and Melissa had on their tiaras. They had the sunglasses and the sparkly dress. And I get the vision because like they package deal, so they gonna kind of dress alike. But y'all still old to be doing that.
It was very childish what they were giving off this whole episode. And I understand that Melissa's riding for her friend now. This is the first time we've really seen Melissa back in years. So it's like a little weird that how she's attaching herself to Big T, but okay, cool. She has a friend in Big T. She's on the show. Again, the dressing alike, I was kind of okay for it just because they were mainly attacked as a duo this season. So I thought it was cute and just to be like, hey, we're just gonna come together matching since everyone wanted to attack us this season. But then we had the sunglasses. Okay, boring. We have, them just going it was just too much for me to enjoy them. But I thought the dresses was cute. Tiaras you could have left to your daughter Melissa, but everything else was like, all right, I kind of see what y'all doing. But like you said, Megan, y'all a little too grown up for this shit. Like, please leave the make believe land outfits and, leave that to the kids.
Yeah, and then everybody else is just there, like wearing standard protocol Vivian outfits. Um, Car and those big red boots. Laura look nice. Um, and that's it about the fashions. Wasn't really too crazy. Aside from Emmanuel's out of place look, but sure, he's a champ. Let's let him. I don't want to let him slide, but if he's a champ, he's gonna do what he wants.
My
So,
God.
but to start the show, Nerese, I mean, immediately at the first sight of seeing Olivia, immediately started crying. And I get uh, the that fact that they hadn't seen each other in a bit, and she knew like she had to come in here without Horacio by her side, addressing a lot of stuff. But on the first look at Olivia, when she walked in, she meets her crying, and I was like, I get it. Just take a tear, and let's just move on.
I mean, like she expressed later on, like she hadn't seen Horacio in 4 months, so that's been hard on her dealing with it technically by herself, essentially, because even though her and Raven have a new built up friendship, she's still by herself in terms of the people that were there around her. So it was kind of hard for her. So I get it, but at you know what you were getting yourself into by doing this reunion and doing this show. So I mean, Nerese isn't scared to back down from anyone, as we've seen. So I think she was fine eventually, but I think the initial nervousness of it got to her, and then we start getting into the most stupidest part of the reunion. I really don't know what this first part of this reunion was, to be honest. Like this first A block, as they call it, I'm not sure what it was because it was filled with absolute filler, which to me is like I understand what we're doing, but what are we doing? Like we've already sat here for 6 months and watched this show. Can we please get to something? And I feel like that also tells to the lack of drama that they had this season because we could have gotten so many things sooner. Like the ending of Kylan and Asaf going at each other, that could have been addressed way sooner because that was early on in the season, number one. But number two, There wasn't that much drama to begin with. Like, yeah, there was little fan questions being asked and whatever it is, but a lot of it could have been addressed in this 90 minutes.
Yeah, because I'm like, what else we gotta address in part two aside from like, well, Mariah and James and the bananas thing, but we could have gone in chronological order instead of from manual one. Let's talk about that and into like some of like the more prevalent storylines, but there are other storylines that could have got put in this episode, like you said. So it's like more things could have been put in here. We didn't need control, chaos, and whatever the last part. I guess we're getting the next part of the season in the reunion as a segment, but it's like I get it. I don't want it to be a gimmick because now you're doing too much of like trying to emphasize, oh yeah, we went through control, we went through chaos, we went through conquest. The dagger thing, it was nice last season on the reunion. Not gonna lie, it was nice. But on this one, we barely used it. So we didn't need it.
Yeah, we didn't need any of it, to be honest. And I mean, they do typically go in the order of, the winner being there, but I think also the fact that there were champs there and people who were on the show previously with the manual from the last season, things like that, that kind of just made it like, bleh. Like, do we really need Tori to discuss how Manuel's a winner? Like, please. I just didn't need that. Like, she wasn't really on this season. She was on one episode. Let's leave her off on the one episode that she was on and keep it pushing. Like, unless y'all want to have CT there, but I know he was on Trader. So like, but don't bring me this. Like, don't try to feed me this. And I feel like Devin was trying to have his stand up routine going. It just sucked. It was awful. Like, the comedic timing of Devin and I say this very lightly. It was horrible. Like, it was horrible because the timing was just off. Like, I'm not sure if he understood timing or if it was just the way it was edited, just the beats of it. Like, if you're trying to do stand up, babe, I'm gonna need you to sit down and watch a little bit more film just so that you can get yourself prepared when you're on these situations, because that was not it at all.
Laura was funnier than him, and she was like honestly the MVP of the champs this whole reunion. Like she was real in the season. She had her moments, but she provided more than a ton of people that were actually on the show. That's crazy.
No, I would say Laurel is definitely saved the reunion at this point, and not even just off of the initial like conversations that she was having, but with her and Michelle, and then with her and Callum, which we can discuss that. I mean, Callum, I hadn't seen him since week 6, but I thought that was absolutely hilarious because they do have history of doing a show, which I forgot initially. But when she was like, he kind of was giving the energy like, "Where do I know you from?" And she was like, "We did a show
Yeah.
together." And he's like, 4 years ago, 4 years. And he starts going off, telling telling her, "You need wine." I feel like Laura's one of them people, she don't need the wine. Like, it may help a little
Mm-mm.
bit, but she already on go by the time she open her eyes and wake up and see another day. Okay. So Laurel is not the one to be on that kind of test with. And she really gave it to him. And I don't know if the girlfriend was in the audience, but I thought that was probably the funniest part of it. He was like, "Hey girl, you don't need him." I kind of was laughing because it's true. We've seen it. Callum literally played in your face and decided to use Michelle essentially and hook up with Michelle to try to further his game. And let's talk about the other Ickme, the little Tory Ickme that was there too, trying to get chose by Callum. Meh.
Ah. Mm. Well, I will say too on Laurel, like she was so comfortable because like her shoes were off. I just want to point that out. Like she was so comfortable on that couch that she slipped those heels off. Like I'm comfortable. I'm into this. Let's get into it. Um, but the ick me moment. Which one was that? I'm trying to blink.
Raven.
Oh,
Raven decided. I mean, I guess Michelle decided to blurt out that Raven had brought to her some concerns that she had with Callum to begin with, and I think it was off of the basis of Raven was trying to see what was up with Callum, like, trying to see his vibe. He wasn't giving her anything. And so once he seen her with Michelle, Michelle's words were that Raven was like kind of surprised that he chose her and was like, why Michelle? I was also wondering why Michelle too. But okay, like you like who you like. I ain't gonna, hold you off of your preference. Do what you think. But Raven then turned around was like, I knew something was fishy with your ass. Then why you was still trying
did
to sleep
you?
with him? And then why did you try to sleep with somebody who had a man, who had a girl in Emmanuel? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you flip flopped and you still ended up with somebody who had a girlfriend. Like, Raven, please, he didn't want you. Like, you probably really didn't have any emotion going on. He saw what Michelle was bringing to the table, which he put it in his words was a Michelle protection package. And he was like, listen, I'll be with Michelle, and I have a Jersey Queen, and we'll ride out, and she'll take me to the final. I'm not mad at Callum for thinking that. use
That's a
use
good
who you want to
way.
use.
That's a good way to politic. Not gonna lie. Like, hey, we've seen it before. He used it to his advantage for a bit until like she couldn't save him. So I see the vision. I see what he's doing, but Michelle ain't know you had a girlfriend. You could have. He told everybody, "Hey, I have someone at home." Michelle's like, "I didn't know that. I know that till we came back home and I fell asleep. I know." So she looked like a fool. And when Laurel like undoubtedly defended Michelle, Michelle was shook. I was shook. Like, hey, one thing about Laurel, she's gonna be on the woman's side when a man does somebody wrong, and that's happened to her with a certain Boston firefighter. So she's not new to this.
Nah, definitely not new to this. She true to this, so she definitely has the years and understand what goes on in the challenge house. And that's why I also liked Laurel being there, just because she gave a little bit more perspective of doing this for a very long time. And even though she's not in this newer generation, she has a lot of knowledge and experience of just playing the game. And one thing I did appreciate Laurel doing was calling out Michelle and Jay and how they played their game of Survivor and tried to bring it onto the challenge. We've talked about this consistently, how that just doesn't work in trying to have an alliance and play a social game and think that's going to take you to the end. And the counter argument from Corey, which didn't make any sense to me, was that if she didn't get purged, she was getting to the final. The bottom line of what you just said is she got purged, so she lost, so she didn't make it. She stood on her own and she lost. Doesn't matter what you say, she lost. So that whole kind of narrative of, oh, if she didn't get purged, but she did. That's the point of a purge. Like, you're supposed to make it on the other side.
Like she played a social game to her credit, which was good on her, but that don't help you when you get purged. Like it was just also weird, like how Corey would jump in to try and like defend somebody and say something. Michelle would jump in and say something. I'm like, y'all not helping the argument at all. Because when we get to let's talk about it. Big T Melissa versus Corey, and I get it. The man apologized. He kept saying, "I apologize. What else do y'all want from me?" Um, they talked about Big T's coming out and how like that spearheaded the friendship of sorts that they had with Corey. And then he turned around days later and did what he did. He is still stuck on the fact that I was like, oh, I apologize. Y'all can't take it. My apology. Just take it or just don't take it. At this point, Big T was like, I'm not accepting an apology. But in the midst of that, things went left. Corey got up, started yelling at both Melissa and Big T. And I'm like, this is y'all talking over each other. I can't do this. That was cringe. and it's a lot.
I mean, I'm not even sure where to start with Corey just because he tried to, argue and try to make it plain that what he did was cruel to Melissa and Big T and how he treated them and what he was saying in the nomination or the deliberation, excuse me, in the deliberation and how he came at Big T and Melissa, but then, was doubling down on the fact that I'll do it again. It was to save my own game. You know, it wasn't towards anything, towards you guys. And I think Melissa and Big T's argument was the fact that he kept doing things to them and then on the back end was trying to, apologize and then do something else. And so I'm at this point, I don't remember specifics, but I do know that at least 2 to 3 instances where Corey and, Big T had a little something where like he did something, he apologized, and then Big T forgave him and they came back to be cordial. Now, Corey at the end of it decided to be like, well, we were never friends to begin with. Like we talked each other on Instagram and, you know, we were just like co-workers essentially. That's fine too. But I think the emotion that Corey was yelling and giving and pointing and screaming and then trying to flip it, like he kept getting more loud and boisterous. And then once they got on their shit, like Melissa's voice is just an irritant. Like it's literally, it's a lot. So once she gets involved and it's Big T and Melissa, now all of a sudden you can't really hear what they're saying and he's trying to overpower them and overshout and trying to make up for what he's saying and he's really yelling and trying to get his point across and he kept doing it consistently. It really was just a mess and I don't like how Michelle tried to jump in and say that, oh, how Corey takes pride in being the only gay person and doing what he's doing. The nigga is messy. I'm gonna just say it. You a messy one. Like, let's just be real. And not to put that on your jacket, but it's on your jacket heavy and hard, brother. Like you're messy. So I don't care how you try to flip it and reverse it and say, what he said in the final, he's a leader and he wants to be the first. And please, you're messy. And the fact is that you got into this mess with Big T and Melissa. Stand on it. Like you keep going back and forth with them and trying to make it seem like you apologize and then the next minute he doubled down on the apologies like, well, you don't accept it or not. She just said she didn't accept it, so move on. Like it was no need to drag out the discussion that he was having with them, and it was why I didn't want to watch Corey in the first place this whole season, because I saw it from the moment he did that with Big T. Melissa was like, you are really messy. Like, what is your problem?
Yeah, and when Melissa was like, "Oh, you why are you coming at a woman? You always try for women." We've seen it happen on social media multiple times. We saw it, and he's like, "When have I done that? When have I done that?" You posted a screenshot of Big T with no makeup, no wig, on FaceTime. Do you not remember that? Like he was like, "What I do to you?" They said it. You're not hearing it. You don't want to hear it. So that's a you thing that you need to realize you actually did something that they felt excited by. And that's why Big T set the boundary. Cause like he kept doing stuff and she's like, I'm just gonna wash my hands of this, I'm gonna push back. Because every single time he'll do something. But that when cause I remember when he posted that screenshot and I was like, you're not serious right now. Like it's just every little thing that he does is like against a woman at times, and people are like, he's not going against women. Like on Twitter for the reunion, like if y'all weren't online when he was going back and forth with people and blaming people for why he wasn't on turn and stuff, you weren't there. But we've seen the tweets. They may be gone by now, but we've seen the tweets. We've seen the track record. He didn't own up to it because he's like, "What I done it?" And they said it. He's like, "Well, he didn't. He was quiet about it."
Yeah, I mean, the North remembers, like, you're messy, Corey, and you need to understand that that's why people have that opinion of you when it comes to dealing with women and how you handle women. And this situation does not help even further. Let's talk about how you still can't even be on a balance beam.
Because he's like, I'm a big man. I can't do it. There's people that are your same stature that have done balancing things. You just can't balance for nothing. That's a you problem.
At all. Like you remember when Charlotte took a tumble? Like Corey took a tumble, you know? And it was kind of funny to see actually them bringing out that mini balance beam and him still falling to this day. Like wow. Talk about being
Like you can't
consistent.
run. You can't run on a balance beam really well. You can't balance. That's a you problem. Go to the gymnastics gym and try it again. You can learn how to do that. So that's that's fine. But of one of the fan questions that we did get, the first one that they did was who was the thirstiest person, and Olivia had to answer that question. She went to the draw and had to spill. Said it was Asaf. There's a lot more people in the cast who are thirsty, but Asaf does kind of take the cake of that.
I can see it. I'm not following us off, nor do I see any of his content, nor do I want to if my algorithms are listening. But yeah, I don't I don't really I don't really consume a soft content to know if he's messy or not. So I think I'm good on that. But he does seem thirsty in real life and just how he handled himself in this reunion so far in terms of how he came at Melissa once again in terms of them having their argument about whether or not he was committed to having her back and then also using the parent angle and saying like hey you're a parent I'm a parent we can discuss how we feel about being away from our children while we're here and I'll have your back. And Melissa doesn't do any self her favors by going crazy online and dragging it out. But she does have valid points when she does do that, just because she's trying to get her voice to be heard. It's her platform, her opinion. She can do whatever she wants to do. But, her and Asaf going at it absolutely did nothing, like absolutely added nothing to a conversation, nor did he say anything, nor did she say anything. So I think that's kind of just a lost bridge that they need to wrap it up on, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, I don't get Raven's point of saying like, "Oh, Asaf, if we would have known you were with Jay, that would have saved you, or that would have made
Well,
us
it
trust
wasn't.
you." Like, girl,
It wasn't.
again, this girl, again, I want to like Raven, but she just be saying whatever. Like whatever comes to her mind is whatever's gonna come out of her mouth, and I don't think that's a good thing sometimes because at the end of the day, they're a little Fantastic Four didn't even do anything like Maria pointed out. It was just a group of meetings of them putting their hands in a circle and just saying hip hip hooray. Like they didn't do anything. Asaf was just there hanging on, just chilling, trying to get to know people and eh, didn't add anything. And so even if he was not, the last person to go home, he went home when he should have went home. Like I feel like CT did the right thing in sending him home because he really brought nothing to this season. Like he didn't add anything to it, to be honest. So the whole Asaf look, I like we could just wrap that up. And I feel like the Kylan and the soft thing I wish we would have gotten to this week because it really just gave they're doing nothing. Like everyone's shouting for security when security is not even needed. No one's doing anything. That just makes me cringe. Because as someone who is a diehard of reality TV, I know when security is needed. Security is not needed when Asaf stands up and said, "You said something about my mother," when he really didn't. Like, let's not make it something when it's really not.
Yeah, because and I'm still on Team Kylan for that. 'Cause I'm like, let's talk about it. Because I did not say that's about your mother. I said in context, you talking about someone that is a mother, and Asaf just was like, what you say? But I'm like you said, security was not needed because Kylan was not about to fight that man over that comment. Just let them argue in front of each other. Because they're not about to throw hands. The only time you actually need security is when people start to throw hands. And we have not seen a fight on a challenge reunion um, in a long time or ever.
I don't know, it was the last time. I think the closest was probably Naya and Jasmine sitting in between that obscure white man, I forgot his name, who was hosting at the time. But when Naya and Jasmine were going at it and calling each other roaches and all sorts of things, and you remember how Hurricane Naya was back then, like they were getting into it, and Jasmine was getting upset. Like Jasmine was visibly upset, and you know, not to stereotype, but smaller people tend to get more angry and want to be like rah rah rah, you know, like they want to get into that. As a small
As a small
person,
person, yeah, as a small person, I can say I can attest to that because I do that all the time. Not gonna lie. I'm working on it though, but it's in our nature as small people to do that. So
I mean, we can hear you guys from down there. It's nothing. We can hear you. Like we understand. You're here. You're people. You're human. We see you. We see you. You know what I mean? We see you down there, but we see you nonetheless. But I think that was the last time we saw anything like that. Was probably Naya and Jasmine, where there possibly needed to be security in the middle, and also maybe Camilla and what's Shorty's name? Starts with a J.
Amanda, no,
Amanda too, but um somebody else was sticking up for somebody, but Camilla and Amanda were going at it, and you know Amanda's about that life, so Amanda probably would have went over there with Camilla in that whole situation, and there was security needed. Camilla started popping her butt, like, girl, Camilla, sit your racist ass down, girl. Bye, please.
yeah,
We don't need that.
but all in all, Kylan is not new to this. He's true to this. That man is messy when he wants to be messy, and also to stand up for people when he sees fit. A la when he got evicted on Big Brother, like I said earlier in the season. But yeah, it's off on a season I would say was the thirstiest because he was trying to be everybody's friend and acting like his ish don't stink. So I'll leave it at that. You want to get into Nerese and Olivia finally and this whole saga because that's the meat and bones of this whole reunion.
I mean, that's the meat and bones of the season. Like, honestly, we were complaining this whole season about, like, really, where is the real drama? And Olivia finally delivered it. So thank you, Sissy Pooh, for that. But I will say, Olivia, and I can't really feel sorry for you. Like the tears, I understand. You know, she said she felt apologetic right after um, she did it and she watched it and she realized what was happening. Shout out to Horacio for showing up too and getting time away from the Mexican cartel that he is working with right now. I'm joking. I'm
Girl,
just I'm joking. I am joking.
we've seen clips. We've seen clips of the show. He's doing
Have
fine,
we?
okay? Yes, I've seen clips
Okay.
of it on
Well,
Maurice's social when she went to go visit him. Okay,
okay.
he was
I'm
doing
literally
great. Okay,
joking. I'm joking. Okay. I'm joking. Horacio is such a good person that I feel like I can only make digs and have jokes because he really is a good-hearted person. And we saw that when he came on to, you know, surprise the cast and Nerese, you know, she was emotional getting into that. But going back to Nerese and Olivia, you know, Olivia was regretful of her decision to turn against Nerese. And, you know, Nerese was like, listen, I accept your apology, but you were the biggest hater that I had the whole time. And it'd be the people that is closest to you, to be honest, that are your biggest haters. And I'm glad that Nerese figured that out in real time when she was on the show, but then also looking back, having the footage to back up her claims and not make her feel crazy. And, you know, also added on to that, they discussed Anissa pillow talking with Nerese's brother regarding, and Tori, messy. Like, you didn't need to add that or blow up anybody's anything.
I don't think she even needs to be like if she said it, she said it. I don't mind her saying it, but she didn't say, "Oh, I'm not. I'm blowing that up." Anita still said it, and Anita still be under a young man's bed anyways. So that's Anissa. I ain't gonna lie. Like I'm not surprised.
I mean, that is what Kara said. It sounds like Anissa in a nutshell, which it is essentially. We've seen Anissa be messy in this way in previous seasons of not only the challenge, but on her original show. So we're not even going to go there. Listen, it is what it is, but I do think that it was a factor in Nerese trying to handle Olivia in the situation. And I think she did give it time. She did try to hold out and see, you know what, whether or not this was said to my brother, this information was brought to me, you know, her brother's not going to mean any harm by telling her things, but she wanted to see for herself, and she did. Olivia did exactly what Olivia was going to do to begin with. So, regardless of not if Anissa's brother said anything, she found out who Olivia is and her true intentions were, and understood that Olivia was her biggest hater. Olivia has to realize that she really did want Horacio. Like, let's stop beating around the bush of her trying to act like she didn't know why her and Horacio had a, a distant relationship, because honestly, she came up with some cockamamie story like, oh, he walked past me in the hallway and didn't say hello. Horacio was like, I don't even remember that. Like, what are you even talking about? Because she's making it up. She's trying to have a sob story, and then she added on the back end of that with her abandonment issues, and everyone has somebody, and I'm alone. And it's just like, all right, you know what? We can either go to therapy and be real about this, or we can just get off reality TV and let our noses and our eyebrows heal. Like, what are we doing here? Those eyebrows are atrocious, by the way, Olivia. You need to stop.
The makeup was bad. And I wouldn't want to comment her outfit, but the makeup was bad. It was
The
bad
hair was
overall.
fitting, but the makeup is, and it's such a drastic change because we've seen her without makeup on the show. So it goes from one extreme to the other. And I get it. You make yourself up, you make yourself beautiful. Fabulous. I love that for you. But bring it down a couple of notches. Like, this is not RuPaul's drag show. Like, you don't have to overdo it with the makeup. You can kind of, you can kind of just make yourself a little bit more up to do, but not like you're going to a ball or you're going to, come on now. You're not getting chopped off the block list over here with TJ in the corner. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no. And the one thing I keeps like coming to my mind is like she would during the season she would tweet things and be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna say nothing," and then you get on the reunion and still don't say much of nothing. You just sit up there crying like you're not the victim here.
I mean, I think that's all she knows how to do. And once again, I'm not gonna diagnose anybody what they have to do, but I mean, this is the second time we've seen Olivia, not the second time, but the second time I've seen Olivia. I didn't watch her Love Island season, but I will say, like, she just needs to grow up. Like, I'm not saying that this is who her character is forever and ever, but when somebody shows you who they are, you kind of believe them. And if they grow, they grow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all here for you figuring out your toxic traits and working that out and growing. So hopefully she does learn from it. Will anyone trust her on the show again? Probably not. I'm not sure why they're also pushing her as part of the faces of this show when she barely can give anything at any time. Like, she likes to switch up when she does, and then, have a face of, I don't know what's happening and I'm so sorry, or like, I'm so confused. It's either one of the two. Either you want to really like lean into who you are pretending to be behind the scenes, or you are who you say you are when you're crying and wanting sympathy from people. So I don't get that. But Horacio did extend that grace to her, so good for her. Like I said, Horacio is a better human than the rest of us, honestly, honey, because he has the grace. Okay, that
Yeah.
covering that your preacher be talking about on Sunday, he has that on him. Because baby, he extended grace to everybody. Okay, and especially to Olivia. Honestly, once Maria had asked, like, do you think that these two, in terms of Nerissa and Olivia, can get back together? He was like, listen, that's not my business, as a man should. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Corey, take notes.
Yeah.
He said, that's not my business. I'm gonna let them handle it. But me and Olivia relationship, we can grow from that, because that was our relationship prior, and he's not taking it too hard as everyone else is. Good on you, Horacio. Like I said, got the grace on you. He seems like a nice young man, a nice respectable Latin young man. But as for you other people, and shout out to Nerese too, congratulations, because she really is the real winner in all of this. Like, please, I can't even describe what Horacio extending that to Olivia, even in the midst of her just chatting up nonsense this whole time. So I'm glad that's sorted out. But child, I don't know if I want to see Olivia back again. And I know somebody had made a comment on the stage. I'm not sure if it was Tori, where they were like, "Oh, Rivals 4," when they was
Oh,
talking about
Kara.
Maurice or Cara. Like,
Yeah.
no, we don't need to see Maurice and Olivia go back and forth. Even though that might be good TV in terms of like the drama that really stemmed from this. But I'm not sure if I'm ready to see Olivia completely back yet because she really doesn't give anything much
Mhm.
besides backstabbing when she wants to be, you know?
Yeah. Um, and Reese does not need to extend grace to Olivia for the decision. Corey jumped in, like maybe she should extend some grace to Olivia. No, like let them deal with what they got, but Reese don't gotta extend grace to her because that was done to her.
She accepted her apology. She said that she accepts the apology, but she's never gonna be friends with her. I think that's enough grace, honestly. When people give you their boundary and say, I forgive you, but I don't forget, let's accept that boundary and keep it pushing. We don't need to add on to it. Because then Laurel then chimed in and says, challenge time heals all wounds. And their friendship could break up and could mean something else later on. Listen, Laurel, we don't have time. Wrap it up.
Yeah,
Like, put your shoes on and wrap it up.
yeah,
No. At this point in
because
the in her life, she said she accepts apology. Let's all move on.
yeah. And where am I gonna go next? Because I'm just gonna wrap it, kind of like dive into the champ takes, because real quick, because that was meat and potatoes everything. But the champ takes were really funny. Some of them were. With Devin and Kara actually agreeing on something, I've never seen them agree on something that was like, oh, about relationships and the challenge. Like, don't focus on that. Focus on yourself. They both agreed, and Kara was shocked about that. It's like, oh, we agree on something. But I've never actually seen them on opposite sides like that in a game. I don't. I think they've barely even played the game together. But them agreeing on, it, I was like, oh, go to them. But I'm like, I've never seen them have interaction to a point where like they are on opposite sides. I guess it's because his bestie is Tori, and Tori is trying to like push a Kara thing, but that does not do happen. Because Tori is trying to push a rival thing with Kara, and baby, that's not happening.
Nor should it. Like I said, she shouldn't even be there to begin with. Like the only people who really should have been there is Laurel and Cara, just so that they could promote All Stars 4, because that's what they're really there for. To be honest, like they're the perfect people that are on that platform to promote that. So I didn't really need Devin. Like I said, his comedic timing was horrible. Tori, unnecessary. But I mean, shout out to Kara. Like I'm actually glad that she is back. Darrell again giving us absolutely nothing, but still giving us giving us looks. He looked good. That's all I can say.
He did, because Callum did made it to make a tweet. It was like, oh, these old vets need WD-40, and Darrell responded to him because they asked the question about it. He was like, well, I don't need it. Like, you don't know what we're about. Like, I know what I do. You just got here. You don't know what it's a history. So that's it. I was like, clock it.
Well, Callum did retract it and was like, "Yeah, well, Darrell was the last person that was hanging out with me last night, prior to the reunion that they were filming." So he understood that Darrell could still hang with the rest of them. It wasn't no real shade. Like Callum is being shady. And Callum also had no point. Like the outfit, horrid, horrid.
I'm like, that's the best he could do.
I like this is my problem. Like everyone looked like they were going somewhere else. Like no one looked like they were going to the same event, which is like I'm not sure what we're doing here. Like I get our personalities come out through our clothes, but you all look so drastically different.
Yep. And also right before the Asaf and Kylan argument that cliffhangered the episode, does Colleen actually know what desperate is? I feel like she actually does know it because she played dumb.
She does. She does. She does. And she tried to backtrack, which I don't know why, because when we were watching the scenes, so they were playing back scenes throughout the show, so they can get the cast reaction in the shots. Colleen was just laughing when she was, making subtle jokes or, making actual jokes, in on the show that she was on. And I just thought it was so weird that Colleen would just try to jump in because yes, Michelle is desperate. I will say, like, I agree on that take. She does come off as the most desperate on the show. But then to backtrack and say she doesn't know what that means, Colleen, you're not dumb. Like you really are not that stupid, and I don't believe you at all. Like she tried to get out of it, as and trying to get out of it is crazy to me because what is Michelle going to do? Like, what what do you think Michelle's gonna do? Is she gonna yell at you? Is she not gonna have you back in her alliance next season? Like, you afraid of Michelle?
Of all people, that's crazy.
Give me a break.
And that was the one only time that Michelle like popped off. Like she popped off on Colleen because of that. I was like, okay, I get it. Both of them are desperate. Let's call a spade a spade. Because, like Michelle said, Colleen was desperate the whole season, going from alliance to alliance, trying to play Moline to save her butt in the game. You were the most desperate. Michelle is a different kind of desperate. I'll say that. But in the game, you were the most desperate because you were on one side of the coin, and then when you got shut out, you went to another group, and then when you was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna way back with them. I'm gonna go back to the other side to try to save my butt." You were desperate the whole time ever you had a chance to do something. You chickened out on certain moments as well. So that was your game this season, Moline. You didn't play Moline like you did on your show. You played Moline in a weird way, and it didn't work out for you. Well, it did for the most part because you got to the final. But aside from that, socially, you were just popping back and forth, and that was desperate for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can't bring the games that you play on your show to the challenge. And so it definitely showed in Colleen's game this season. Like you can't play the mole on the challenge. It does work in some instances, but it did get her to the final, like you just said. But honestly, your character would be shot after seeing how you did move. So that's the only issue with you wanting to continue to be on the show because pretty sure she wants to come back on the show. So that's the only thing with Colleen. It's just like, girl, you know what desperate means. Like, cut it out, please.
Yep, and then I guess Devin lives rent free in Asaf's head. Like I don't see Asaf on my timeline often. I see it like every blue moon. But apparently they have a rift going, and I'm like, okay, cool. I ain't see Devin on my timeline like that either, so I don't see nothing from him. So whatever y'all got going on, that can stay offline and it's off the camera because we don't see
Same. Like they not on no side of Black Twitter that I'm on. So let's keep it that way too. Actually, don't care. Next.
Well, that's the wrap up of the reunion. We're gonna get into the tweets from watching the reunion. First one is Emmanuel thinks he's serving Michael Jackson, but it's really giving circus reject.
Yeah, he was only missing a red cape and a bull, because definitely gave. He could have been, um, yeah, taming a bull. I don't know. Like that was
Yes.
just hard.
And then for friend of the show, Grant, he tweeted, Olivia can't even produce a tear. She's trying to squeeze these white woman victim moments out because, child, every moment she had a chance, she just started crying. And I'm like, girl, you can't just you can't just talk about crying. Like, stop. Like you had a chance to say your truth fully and not just play on Twitter. Like you said, oh, I have so much to say about things. Girl, you're giving us delusion with every answer you give us.
Again, I'm not on her side of Twitter, but Olivia is definitely a Karen. Like, girl, bye.
Yep. And next tweet, the way nobody is taking a soft seriously and he's like dead serious, like that's so embarrassing. Loser. Grade A loser. Because honestly, he like this whole season, like he is the most thirstiest. And he was just there being behind Jay. And that didn't get him that far because he ain't do nothing. that was power. Like that's the whole thing of like the Jay Michelle thing. Like they had the whole alliance, but didn't actually make moves that were powerful in the game like that. And Asaf was just part of that. They had nothing to really do. They were just there.
I agree.
And well, we talked about this. Let me find another one. But yeah, that was really most of the tweets really. And everybody was like, there's one tweet I was gonna say that we actually mentioned, like in talking about it, because like, oh, can we like express? Hold on, can we just recognize that Corey literally proved Laura's point though? When Michelle had to stand on her own 2 feet, she got purged. The challenge shouldn't only be about alliances; it's about physicality and wit too. Because the challenge is
Ab-
about going nations and doing other things.
Absolutely. I think when Laurel said it, they just thought that meaning going into eliminations. Like, yeah, she beat Cara in her elimination, but other things also mean winning challenges and getting yourself to the final, to the point where you want to be in, and not just by your gameplay. So it doesn't matter that the 7 people that made it to the final, Michelle was protecting. Michelle's not there to see it. So that's the point that we're trying to make. Like, you can't counter argue with, oh, she got purged. No, she lost straight up and down, actually. And that's a little more embarrassing because you're the first person to go. Like, you were last of the last. You were the losers of the
Yeah.
losers.
Yep. And that's really the last tweet I have. There's gonna be more next week, obviously, because we have more storylines to get to under Union. Like we still have Kylie and Horacio versus Jay. I guess we'll bring Horacio back for that. Bernard's gonna make an appearance next week as well, because we gotta get into her roller coaster of emotions and all that with Michelle. And something else. More Olivia and Reese, I guess, too. And Reese versus Michelle. Because that we see Michelle walk off the stage at one point. So we get the tail end of that.
So basically, something that they could have fit into this hour and 30 by giving us nothing else that they gave us probably that first half. But it is what it is. Like, this is how the challenge has been. And especially this season, it was very long, very drawn out. But I'm glad that it's over. So next week is the last week of this show and the season. Thank the good Lord up above that this is it for this season, because I'm tired of these people. But I will say next week we will discuss more of the All Stars 4 trailer that has dropped. So that comes out April 10th. We are excited to see that. And we'll talk a little bit more stuff and kind of wrap up this season of the challenge. But thank you guys for listening this week. If you would like to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at Duel Alliance Pod. You can follow Megan at Megs and Highs, and you can follow myself at Ace_S5. And if you're listening, you can watch this on YouTube at Duel Alliance Podcast. And like, comment, subscribe, get the algorithms rhythming. And thank you guys again for listening, and see you guys next week. Bye.
See ya.